Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Wealth Conversation podcast with me, Tsitsi Mutiti. I guide high-achieving women on their journey to build lasting wealth so they can prepare for an abundant future in every area of their life. I hope that today's episode will help you to transform your relationship with money so you can make the choices that will enable you to create the opportunities and lasting wealth that you desire. Let's get straight into this week's episode. As you will know by now, step number 2 of the Choices Blueprint focuses on understanding your money habits and mindset. And in this episode, I'll be introducing you to the 6 habits and attitudes that impact our relationship with money and our overall financial well-being. This is the first of a 2-part series on our money habits. I felt it was important not to rush through these because our habits impact every area of our life, and I believe that once you understand what your dominant and less dominant habits are, it becomes so much easier to improve all areas of your life simply because you're more aware of why you take certain actions. Whether these actions will support you in your journey to becoming the designer of your financial future, and even more, how you can deal effectively with any habits that are no longer serving you. I know this to be true because I have been through this process of identifying my dominant and less dominant habits, and I've done the work to establish the root of each habit. I've also worked out the advantages and disadvantages of each habit, as well as how I can use each habit to fast-track my journey to creating the lifestyle and generational wealth that I desire. The 6 habits and attitudes have been collectively called the Money Habitudes by Syble Solomon, the founder of LifeWise Strategies and the creator of the Money Habitudes assessment. Syble also specialises in the psychology of money. Now, before I introduce you to the Money Habitudes, it's probably worth reminding ourselves what habits are. And simply put, habits are the small decisions you make and the actions you take every day. And according to researchers, habits account for about 40% of our behaviors on any given day. It's important to recognize that these decisions and actions are based on some of our memories, thoughts, and feelings that are etched in our subconscious. And oftentimes our habits show up almost on autopilot when a memory, thought, or feeling has been triggered. So, taking the time to actively understand and acknowledge these rules, or mindset, as some may call them, and identifying how they trigger your habits is really key in understanding you. So according to Syble, the 6 money habits are security, planning, status, giving, spontaneous, and carefree. And each habit, she says, carries its own money message. And those messages are as follows. For security, the money message is stay safe and secure. For planning, the message is act intentionally. For the status habit, the message is make a good impression. And for giving, the message is help others. Spontaneous, the money message is enjoy the moment. And for carefree, the money message is not to be a priority. Now, I will be going through each of these habits over time, but I want to stress that it is important that you acknowledge that none of these habits are actually bad, and that you can have more than one dominant habit, which is my situation. Also, your dominant habits may change with your situation and your circumstances, and I liken each of these habits to a hat, right? You have 6 hats which you can either alternate, or sometimes you can put more than one hat on top of your head. So depending on your current situation, you may need to wear 1 or 2 hats or even more. of those hats, and you may actually swap one hat for a different one a few months later when things have changed for you. So, for example, I'll illustrate this by saying if you are planning to buy a house, you might focus on using the planning habit to ensure that you can afford the house that you want. You may also find that you are more careful with how you spend your money and you're keeping track of where your money is going on a regular basis. And that's planning in its simple form, right? For a certain period of time, you just have to be really focused on where every penny is going. But once you've purchased the house, you might start focusing on furnishing the house and maybe or fixing it up, which might require you to still wear your planning hat, but also put on your status hat. After all, who doesn't want nice things in their home? So you see, it's all about ensuring that you are utilizing your money habits to achieve your desired goal. Now, being able to identify your less dominant habit is as important as identifying your dominant habit. And this was actually a game changer for me. You see, I'm the eldest of my siblings, and after both my parents passed away, I took it upon myself to be the one who looked after all of us. I thought that was the obvious thing to do. After all, my parents always told me to be the responsible one. They told me to look out for my 3 younger sisters and to set a good example. So the first thing I learned in my new role of being head of the house was that I had to be organized, and I quickly developed my planning habit without even realizing it. But it got to the point where now I actually over plan. And over planning has meant that I have little time to focus on just being, just enjoying the moment, because everything must be in the spreadsheet. Everything must be in the plan. Otherwise, I actually find it very difficult to do certain things, even a simple thing as going out for a meal. Because if it's not in the plan, I feel very insecure. This means that for many years, I hardly used the carefree and spontaneous habits. And even now, when I last did my Money Habitudes assessment for myself, carefree did not come up at all. Now, there are many advantages of being a planner, including making intentional financial decisions based on your values and desired long-term outcomes. And planners tend to have more money reserved to pay for the unexpected, which is really important. They also have a sense of well-being and control. But like everything, there is 2 sides to every coin, and there are some disadvantages and challenges of having the dominant planning habit. And for some people who have planning as their dominant habit, they may feel pressured by others to spend money on things that do not fit their budget or values. A planner may be expected to help others who did not plan, and it tends to be quite difficult for planners to respond to new opportunities because it might mean changing or abandoning their plan. And this really resonates with me, and I experience this quite often when opportunities do come my way. And how it actually manifests is I go back into the plan and I am trying to adjust the plan. And whilst I'm trying to adjust the plan, it actually means that I am losing time and that opportunity might actually slip away. Another challenge is that you might hide or withhold information from significant others so you can stay in control of the money. That's actually a huge one. Now, I've spoken about planning and I mentioned the other habits, but I will just touch on the advantages and disadvantages of the spontaneous and carefree habits, and then we will talk about the remaining 3 habits in the next episode. So, the advantages of utilizing that spontaneous habit are that you enjoy adventures and the unexpected. you're also able to quickly respond to opportunities, completely opposite to when you're using the planning habit. And you get a lot of attention and recognition. And people who effectively use a spontaneous habit also experience the thrill of taking risks. Again, there are some disadvantages to utilizing the spontaneous habit too much. And that is you could spend money even when you don't have it. Sometimes you get into debt to buy things you don't need. And at times, people may keep secrets from significant people in their life because they feel guilty or ashamed of their spending, the debt, or how much they have given to others. And I really can resonate with that one in terms of when I got into debt, the reasons that I got into debt, and how I kept that to myself for a very long time. It was really difficult to talk to people about my financial situation and the fact that it was because I had given so much to others. Moving on to the third habit for this episode of the Wealth Conversation podcast. So if your dominant habit is carefree, then some of the advantages you might experience are that you are optimistic that everything will work out. You also tend to respond quickly to new opportunities, and you don't let money considerations or details distract you from what you want to achieve. And some of the challenges of having the carefree habit as your dominant habit are you may lack the skills and information to feel confident about managing your money or making decisions. You often miss opportunities by avoiding commitments or missing deadlines, and you find yourself feeling frustrated by how often things don't work out as expected. So I hope you see, just by me fleshing out those three habits, planning, carefree, and spontaneous, that actually there are advantages and disadvantages, and that they can actually work hand in hand with each other. You can have a plan to make sure that you do take advantage of opportunities when they come. But in order to do that, you need to make sure that your spontaneous habit kicks in so you can recognize those opportunities and jump at them. But to jump at them, sometimes it means you do need money in reserves, or you just need money so you can put fuel in the car to go to a specific venue or jump onto a train. These are the opportunities that come up every day that sometimes we definitely need to take advantage of because they will take us closer to our ultimate goals. In next week's episode, I'll be discussing the advantages and challenges of the other three habitudes, which are security, giving, and status. In the meantime, I want you to remember that we all have the power to influence our behaviors, and I would encourage you to listen to episode 4 of the Wealth Conversation podcast, where I interviewed my friend and certified financial coach, Catherine Thomas Humphreys, and we talked about influencing your money habits and mindset. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Connect with me at the Wealth Conversation on Facebook and Instagram so we can continue the discussion. Also, if you're ready to define what wealth truly means to you, then go to thewealthconversation.com and download the Wealth Cornerstones Guide. Until next week, stay focused on becoming the designer of your financial future.